virtual environment display system is a multisensory interactive display environment.
Programmers around the world call it
virtual reality headset designed for gaming.
Facebook has acquired Oculus VR for $2 billion.
Today we've opened pre-orders for
Quest 3, the first mainstream mixed reality headset.
The year is 2025, and the VR industry has seemingly become more stale than ever. With no real news or major titles coming out of the space, this medium, which brings people so many unique experiences, has caught itself in a sort of yearly cycle. If this cycle continues, it'll bring about the slow dissolvement of a major tech industry with no room for anybody else to enter, which in turn will mean that Meta will continue to hold a majority market share within the space. Now, I'm sure you might be wondering why it is that Meta holding the space in the way that it does is bad, and that will be addressed later in this video, along with a call out to the mishandlings of the VR industry from companies, creators, and developers. So, with that being said, let's get right into the video. Now, of course, to start off, we're going to examine Meta and their seemingly negative long-term effect towards the fragile VR industry. I said before that holding a major share in the market was a bad thing, and the reason why I think that is because from outside observation, it seems that they are prioritizing getting consumers in a cycle that will continue to bring them profit as it continues to shrink. Since their headsets are limited in performance compared to PCVR, developers end up harming the graphical and mechanical capabilities of their games in order to fit the performance parameters of the MetaQuest lineup. Not to mention, the pace of the hardware side of the cycle is eerily steady. I don't know if you've noticed, but it seems like every yearly to bi-yearly release of a new Meta headset just has them doubling the RAM size and putting in a new chip with a 30 to 60% performance boost. And on top of that, providing software updates that somehow unlock more performance out of your headset. Now, this next bit is going to be my opinion and mine alone, so take it with a grain of salt if you will. I personally believe that unless you want to conserve battery, a VR headset should be used to its full potential in order to provide the most satisfactory experience for players. VR isn't like PC where you can play games while multitasking, so whatever application is being ran is the sole focus of the headset 90% of the time. So then why not ship these headsets out with their computer chips being able to be used at max performance? All of that contributes to the hardware VR cycle, which is essentially a new Meta VR headset being released that has some new features and a performance boost. I like to draw comparisons to that of the yearly iPhone releases, where instead of giving consumers a real reason to buy, Apple will just change up the camera, change the color options, and expect you to pay 4 figures for it. For VR specifically, this overall just stands to harm consumers because the second they purchase a new headset, it basically has an unknown expiration date, meaning that at some point, your top of the line VR headset will become nothing more than a paperweight. Think I'm exaggerating? Well, no, I'm not. With the release of the Quest 3S, there is an obvious push from Meta to phase out Quest 2 hardware from games. For now, it's simply making Quest 3 exclusive titles such as Batman Arkham Shadow and Asgard's Wrath. But soon, just like what happened to the Quest 2's predecessor, the Quest 1, games will stop allowing Quest 1 headsets to even play them, meaning that when a situation like that does hit the Quest 2, many VR consumers will be lost to the competition of traditional media consumption. And speaking of media consumption, that also plays a major part in this VR cycle. The VR YouTube scene is a scene that somehow can't decide if it's a small niche community or a front-running professional industry. In the span of half a decade, this niche has consistently stayed in its Wild West phase, meaning that for many creators, careers can be made. Because studios typically don't have a AAA marketing budget the likes of which will slam you with an hour of unskippable ads, most studios rely on VR content creators to get the word out about their games. This then in turn creates a really interesting power dynamic, where games need creators in order to get the word out, and creators need games in order to have something to cover for their next Mr. Beastified, subtitle-filled, hyper-attention span numbing style of video. And while this power dynamic actually does bring a lot of benefits, it does have two underlying issues that almost completely cancels out, or in some case overrides, said benefits. The first issue is that with the current sensitive state that VR is in, nobody dares to criticize VR games when they do something that inherently harms their experience. Legitimately, I want you to try and think of the last time you actually heard criticism in a VR video that wasn't just, it has some bugs. Then, as a result of this lack of criticism, when a game performs bad, even with the ensuing hype, it shows other developers that the industry doesn't really know what it wants. So instead of devs taking risks and showing us their masterpieces, we instead get developers pandering to what's worked in the past, which then turns a lot of up-and-coming VR games into straight-up recycled slop that feels like its only goal is to keep you in a cycle that wastes your time while draining your wallet. I'm not going to specifically name any names, but I will warn you to look out for games that look like they just waltzed out of a low quality YouTube Kids animation, because like it or not, your time should be looked at as another form of currency. And even with free quest games, if something doesn't meet your quality standard, then drop it and leave it an honest review of why you did. This feedback is crucial to developers who want to create experiences that are both fun and profitable, and can serve as lessons on what not to do for future games in development. But what does all of that actually serve to do? Because, as mentioned in this video, this is about a boring, repetitive cycle that is harming the industry. What actually is this yearly cycle? Well, here it is. At the start of the year, the Christmas Quest users have picked up VR and are starting to integrate into the community. Since most VR games release around Christmas for this exact reason, the months of January to March don't usually see much action in new releases. This, combined with the fact that content creation revenue is also lower in these months due to advertisers not paying holiday prices, and you start to see people express ideas such as VR is dying, VR is boring, and the coveted one, VR is getting stale. And as a creator myself, I will agree that yes, during these couple of months, VR is usually at its most boring. Heck, I do VR content creation as my only source of income, and even I didn't touch my headset for the whole month of January. It's literally just been sitting right there. However, from the months of March to May, hype starts to drive up again. Teasers for new games start to release, and starved VR content creators latch onto them to make another installment in their definitely unique new VR games coming soon series. And if a game is alluring enough, or they can pay, creators will make individual videos on the newly coming game. Towards the end of this period, we might also get chirps of the next meta headset nearing its completion, aka definitely not company-issued leaks. Then, during the month of June to August, the previously teased VR games will start releasing, and creators become more motivated now to binge play said games since ad revenue is going back up. This time span is also prime time for new creators to make their rise by riding the waves of hype from these newly released games. Then September rolls around, and MetaConnect occurs, where big man Mark Zuckerberg gets to show us all the new and definitely not leaked Meta VR/AR headsets, which at the end of the day will then just be another doubling of the RAM capacity and a CPU/GPU performance upgrade. Pre-orders will then start, and headsets ship out around the October to November date, while partnered meta creators and news outlets get first-hand experience and can give you a 100% unbiased review of the headset. Then December rolls around, ad revenue reaches all-time highs, Meta goes nuclear with the marketing, a new wave of consumers rolls in at Christmas, and just like that, the cycle starts again. So do you see why this is bad? It's quite literally the definition of insanity. Consistent VR consumers have literally been receiving the same yearly experience with the expectation of a different result. This cycle has been going on now for about half a decade, and if VR really wants to get anywhere with the way things are going, a drastic measure must be taken. What is that, you might ask? Well, Meta needs a legitimate competitor. More specifically, they need a competitor that takes a risk which no other VR company dares to. They need a competitor who can manufacture and sell a standalone consumer-level headset that is able to run Steam VR games. Once a path from Meta's consumer ecosystem is present, I can almost guarantee you that a sizable portion of the VR marketplace will make the jump over. This company, though, shouldn't take the route that Meta has with their headsets. What they'll have to do instead is create a headset in which the hardware is built to last for multiple years. If this can be done, I personally think that it will provide enough of a consumer ripple effect that the yearly VR cycle is broken. But what company would do this, you might ask? Well, honestly, the only one who seems to be going that route at the moment is, interestingly enough, Valve, with leaks being released slowly showcasing what appears to be a standalone VR headset. But still, until that headset does come out, our cycle will repeat. Creators will either fizzle out, get bored, or move on to something outside of the niche. And VR developers, slowly but surely, will start to experience more financial burden than they are willing to risk. And then, all of the passionate consumers that are left will stand wondering where their industry went wrong. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you did enjoy it, and hopefully this ends up reaching the right amount of people to where a change can be made. I'm just gonna say this now, but this video was in no way meant to start beef with any creators or call anybody out specifically. A lot of these problems quite legitimately just occur in the niche in general. So please, 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 I once again implore you, please do not take this personally. Other than that, this is my first upload of 2025. So if you want to see more documentaries like this that maybe potentially talks about something a bit more positive, then I'm gonna tell you the age-old thing of leaving a like, subscribing, and commenting. However, this is just so I can compare this against other uploads so I can then see, okay, how many people really do want this and how successful will it be for? Anyway though, with that said, my name is Trentic. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will be signing out. Peace.